Don Mazzella again here for you. We we've in recent weeks had some very interesting guests. We continue that streak today um, with a woman who has an extraordinary story to tell. Well, Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you for
Angela,
having me.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
that's our next guest.
That's okay.
Oh,
I'll take
Laura,
any name.
Angela,
Thank you.
all right. So, Angela, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, then about what you're doing in your company, and finally a website.
So I am founder and CEO of Intinde, which is a business coaching service for executives and entrepreneurs. It is a leadership development, team building, career management service, but there's other tangents to it. Essentially, it's we are in the service of grooming leaders in the making to ascend to leadership roles. And for entrepreneurs, our service is to reinforce whatever vision they have for their business model and make sure that they have the right team to propel that vision forward. So that's the work that we do. My head office is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We have offices in Miami, Boston, and in Montreal, where I'm
Wow.
originally from.
Yeah. Well, that I surmise from the accent. And your website before we go any further?
My website is www.intinde.com. I will spell it INTINDE.com.
Okay, we'll get back to it several times in our talk.
Okay.
Well, but you had an idea for our talk that you'd like to present. So, Angela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about business leadership and certain aspects of what is important for leaders to be mindful of, especially through changing times, difficulties, and anything that presents as a challenge to them with regards to their business and their team. So I just wanted to walk you through some points that I wanted to highlight to, for leaders to be mindful of and to focus in on and to never lose sight of if they want to keep thriving and building a business that can propel them into the future. So the first thing that I wanted to address is leaders have a very distinct opportunity to seize and be very proactive towards any opportunity that presents itself in to them. Leaders normally are not lax about taking initiative and being action oriented with opportunities. A good leader is someone that acts with purpose and intensity always. So doesn't matter, throw as many chips in the air as possible and see what it is that you end up catching, because opportunities are forever fluid in front of leaders, and it's really not conducive upon them to sit back and have the opportunity seize them. It's really the other way around. You constantly need to be engaged and proactive. Today, it's really about being engaged and proactive regarding leadership. An effective leader is usually that. Um,
Angela, can I interrupt you? It's ironic because last week we had a individual on who also advised, and his argument was that you should concentrate and not uh, ignore a lot of opportunities, but concentrate on one or two.
well, we're all different. I'm more of a global thinker. It depends what your internal
Hmm.
makeup is and
Well,
what
I agree
you.
with you.
So we're all different, right? And everyone's right and everyone's wrong. It depends, right? Whatever works, that's the right thing to do. For me, what I have found in my experience is that the more things I engage in, the higher probability that I'm going to come out with something that is really going to satisfy my desire and passion to be an entrepreneur and to propel forward a something that's needed in the market.
Mhm.
So people have a tendency to forget that it's about what the need is and not what the want is. And the only way to do that is by trial and error, and you have to keep trying many different things until you land on the right thing. That there's a very direct response for it in the market. It doesn't just happen. I mean, it does, but it's once in a, you know.
Yes, yes.
So, which
Please
is why
continue.
I'm more proficient with regards to wanting to try as many things as possible at the same time. But we're
Good,
all different.
good for you. I've been not accused, but pointed out that I kind of have two or three things always going. So I agree with you. So keep
I
going.
think I think it keeps you engaged. It keeps you. Well, you'll see through my notes that it kind of corresponds to what this initial discussion between you and I is. So another point that leaders need to stop doing, which may be a counter to what your other guest mentioned or discussed with you. I'm somebody, I don't like to micro worry about what I get involved in. They say that the devil is in the details. I say the devil's going to show up anyway. I'd
Hmm.
rather deal with it later. My job as an entrepreneur is to establish immediately what the framework is for the business model that I want to propel forward. And I have time as I work it, as I go along with it, to deal with the minutia of the details that need to be corrected to refine and finesse so that it's more in alignment with how it's supposed to function in the workplace. So, micromanaging, I'm not, even with people, I'm not a big proponent of that. I like people. I first of all, I groom leaders. So leaders don't need micromanaging. So to me, if you're a leader, I will pass, the baton to you with what it is that you are a leader in. And I assume and understand that you have full capacity and agency in handling that specific need that's required within the greater component of what this business model, has and consists of. So I'm somebody that likes to be more elaborate and more global in terms of my thinking when it comes to how I propel a business model forward and how I handle the people that I assemble to bring it forward.
Angela,
Uh, yes.
before you go further, your website again, and as my engineer pointed out to me, your last name. Did not introduce you properly. So please
So my
tell us.
my last my full name is Angela Civitella,
Hmm.
and my website is www.intinde.com, and that is intinde.com.
Hmm. Now, please keep going.
The third point that I think is important that a lot of leaders forget to do, they don't, it's not, being mean spirited. They just forget to do this. They forget to supplement their team with satisfaction. What does that mean? So this is where you really get to know your team, not just from a work perspective, but also from a personal perspective. What is it that gives you enthusiasm to come to work every day? Should I give you a bonus because you've performed well? Are you more receptive to recognition? Should I give you an award, at the end of the year for reaching a certain benchmark? Would you rather be rewarded with, an all paid vacation for you and your family? What is it that keeps you engaged and motivated and enthusiastic to come to work every day? So that's incumbent upon leaders to find out what it is that keeps their team stimulated, engaged, and passionate about what they're doing. So take the time to really get to know who your team members are and what drives them. Why is it that they're so, what would give them that extra gear that they want to give you to make your business even better than it is? That's an
Well,
very important thing to do.
let me ask you a question on that point. Do you find that in today's workforce, there's a dichotomy between what older workers want and what younger workers want?
Yes, yes, there is. The difference is older workers, older workers are still very much, within the work within the framework of old school. They respond to hierarchy. They respond to being more rule followers. Um, the ones that, however, want to stay relevant have no choice but to adapt to how the workplace has changed for the younger generation. So they need to be more amenable. And you're going to ask me what? So they need to be more amenable to being maybe taking on a variety of different roles within an organization. You need to have flexibility. You need to demonstrate a certain amount of entrepreneurship whereby you're an independent thinker. Maybe not be micromanaged, maybe be very self-sufficient in terms of what it is that you're being asked to do. Younger workers are huge on communication. They need a lot of knowledge and information. They like to feel included in the process. They don't just want to come in, show up, get a paycheck, and leave. They actually want to matter to the business model and to the bottom line. So there is a convergence, if you will, between older and younger because you have to, because at the end of the day, the business model in itself is changing. So if you've been in the, in the corporate world for 20 plus years and you want to stay, you have no choice but to adapt. And that's where people like me come in. We help those people adapt to certain things that they may not have thought were important when they started, which today are important. So yes, there is a difference.
Okay, please continue.
Um, Another point would be to be genuine. This is just touched upon that. Everything overlaps here. You have to be genuine with your connections. I mean, a lot of people are very proficient on LinkedIn, on Facebook. They have 5,000 friends, but what does that really mean? 5,000 connections? What do you know everybody? Have you made an effort to reach out to people that are, a first degree or second degree connection in your business network and extended, yourself in terms of presenting yourself to them? And more importantly, especially now that things are going to slowly start to reopen, network, get to a networking event. If there's one thing we've learned in this past year, is how we are in dire need of human contact. That is been the biggest grievance we've all had is the lack of human contact. And so as soon as things normalize, which we seem to be going in that direction, go to as many networking events as possible. Get the most out of them. Talk to people. Don't just go get a drink, stand by a wall, give out a bunch of business cards and think and call it a day. Engage with people, create a memory, create a moment with somebody because you never know when that person may become important to you in whatever trajectory you're on. So be genuine when you look to connect with people. Very important.
Very new from our on our program. Continue, please.
um, a lot of people talk about the famous overnight success. Let's be honest, there is no overnight success. It doesn't happen. I love the people that make it look like it is. They don't talk about the 20, 25 years that they've toiled, to get to the level of visibility and notoriety that they now are basking in. So what do? It's important to keep in mind to stay focused, to be tenacious, to stay on course, to believe even when no one else believes, even when everyone tells you not to. You have to have a fundamental belief that what you are engaged in matters and will matter to the greater good one day. Because if you believe in it, one day everyone else will believe in it. Because if you don't, you'll never sell it properly because nobody will ever believe you. So you need to have faith, and your core belief has to be invested in what it is that you're doing in order for it to succeed. And don't let go. Be tenacious about it. Be passionate about it. Be purpose driven about it. And you will get to your goal. The goal may change, but there is a goal of success at the end waiting for you if the proper elements are put into place along the way.
Let me ask you a question on this point.
Yes.
There was a discussion last week I'm involved in. Is it someone who believes, who just wants ultimately the wealth that goes with success, or are there people more likely to be successful if they believe in some goal or believe or product or service? In your opinion?
You know, there's a famous quote that I like to use. It has to do with sales, and I really believe this with my whole heart. Don't sell the product, sell the solution the people are looking for, and the product will sell itself. So if you sell someone on the solution they're looking for, there's your client. And if you're able to sell them a solution, that's a return customer and a loyal customer for life. And if you keep multiplying that, there's your success. So it's not about, look, when I started this business, it wasn't about making money. That was absolutely not at all the mission of this. It was to be in service of others. I come from an executive decision making background. I did very well as an executive for a lot of years. And I thought, I know enough to pay it forward to someone and make it easier for them in terms of what it is that they need to do to ascend to a level of leadership whereby they are now empowered with leading others. So it wasn't about money, it was about being in service. And truth be told, my business really took off during COVID. Why? Because I put out a video at the beginning of COVID last year where it was a call to action to other coaches to tender their services for free for a period of time for businesses and individuals that were in free fall. And I got to tell you, overnight, I had a spectacular increase in requests, in business, I mean, it was just amazing what happened. And so I fundamentally believe the money is great. Wealth provides you with opportunities and choices in life. But I think your motivation has to be about being in service for the greater good, whatever that is, whatever that may be. It has to come from a deeper place than just filling up your wallet.
What brought you, gave you the idea for the video? And that, I agree, it was a smart move.
Well, I because of what I do, I constantly post videos of different, things that we look into, that I post on my social media. I invite you to see them, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There are
Well,
snippets of.
well, stop right there and tell us what your social media is.
So I'm
What's
on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. So
and
anyone,
and
sorry.
what are they? What are
So
the
on
three?
link on LinkedIn, it's Intinde. If they look up Intinde, the name of the company, they'll find all of my material. They'll find my videos. I'm a published contributor to online media in various magazines. I write for Forbes. I've written for CNN Business, um, Biz Daily. I mean, you know, Career Girl, Retail Insight. I mean, you name it. I'm featured pretty much everywhere, and you have access to all my articles and all my videos. So I just woke up one morning when COVID was official and thought, you know what? Uh, this is the time to really prove what in my heart of hearts I believe fundamentally to be, and that is to be a servant leader. I'm in service of other people. And so I'm going to showcase it in truth, my truth, by offering my services for free. And not only that, I'm going to call on to other coaches to do the same. And that's exactly what happened. And it was quite an interesting period of time that obviously will never be captured again because as wonderful as it was, I certainly don't wish to go through what we went through last year again for anybody. But we made something good out of something really bad. And that I will forever remember.
Hmm. Well, I always like the line, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But
That's exactly what we did. Yeah.
so we've interrupted your website again for our audience and also your social media because obviously there's a lot there.
So my website is www.intinde.com. My social media is LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook under Intinde.
Well, we're having a great time, so give us another one.
Okay. Um, hmm, this is a big one and a true, very true one. Neglected connections are not connections. Okay.
Hmm.
So you connect with somebody on one of these, platforms that I just named. You connect with them, but you never interact with them. Is that a connection?
No.
I don't think so. Right? You're just collecting cards. It's like having a very big Rolodex that you never look at. It's the same thing. So make an effort, extend yourself, send an email, connect with them. I don't know, maybe when traveling is reopened again and you have a conference somewhere, look up somebody that maybe is part of that, you know, uh, that conference or in that city. Connect the dots with people. Keep connecting dots with people because you never know when that golden opportunity may present itself for either you to do business with them, or they may turn around and introduce you to somebody that may change your life completely. So be active, be proactive with your connections. It's so important to stay engaged and to keep talking. Be a communicator. And the more you communicate, guess what happens? The more effective you become at communicating. You fine tune that too by doing it over and over again. So I can't stress that enough. Just, there's a treasure trove of business opportunities that you have in your arsenal and no one's making use of it. Tap into that because you never know when the next golden opportunity for you, where it may come from. It may be staring at you right in front of you and you don't even know it.
That's a great one. Keep going.
Failure. Failure. This big word, failure, that everyone's so afraid of. And to me, it's actually something that inspires me. Yeah, I'm not afraid of that. Why? Because mistakes are good. Mistakes keep you engaged. Mistakes keep you alert to wanting to refine, realign, reshift, and rethink your business model. Mistakes keep you curious. Mistakes keep you wanting to repivot what it is that you've set out to do. So mistakes are little footprints that tell you just to reshift and realign what it is that you're doing to get to the right spot so that you can move forward in a very fluid and proficient way. It's very much like playing golf. Playing golf is all mental. It's all about strategy. Why is it that you can hit the same ball with the same effort and same intensity and get a different outcome? It's all about shifting and realigning your mindset and your focal point in order for you to be able to get that one swing to go the distance that you needed to go. Business is very much the same way. It works exactly that way. So you need to be able to be amenable and adaptable to change. A lot of people keep insisting on doing the same thing over and over and over again because they're convinced they have the right formula. The right formula is an ever-changing formula. If you understand that, you have a shot at your business doing well, because that means you're open. You're open to inserting new things into it to make it better, to make it perform at a higher level, to achieve that excellence that you're looking for, because that's what we're after. Not perfection, but excellence. You put in excellence, you get out excellence.
Hmm. Well, let me throw you a curve at this point. And
Yeah.
in your experience, um, dealing with women leaders and leaders to be, and men, what are the differences? And I know there are differences between the two.
Well, there's the usual gender-based differences. Unfortunately, they still exist. Um, I find that men are more teachable, but they're more teachable because they've had less people telling them that they can't do something. So they're more open to any new knowledge that comes their way. Women have always been told they can't do this, they can't do that. You're not going to surpass the level you're at. You're only, as good as the next girl, not guy. So they're more insulated and more self-contained and not as open to listening to um, a coach. Um, but that's also something that's changing because more and more women now are being, respected and regarded at higher levels. Even though it saddens me to say that the percentages of CEOs is very, very low. There's only, I think, 15 or 20% of women that are actual CEOs of companies. That's really low. And
And
so
if you took out those that inherited from their fathers, it would be even
it's
less.
even lower. It's even lower. Exactly. So the changes are the differences are too wide for me to, I mean, it would take me a week to tell you what the differences are. The differences are there. I find women, but I'll say this, women, because they're so much more guarded and insulated, are better prepared to handle things alone than men are.
Well, that's
Men
interesting.
need men are more men are very powerful because they surround themselves with a lot of brain power. Women, because they haven't had that latitude to be able to be surrounded that way, have had to be more self-sufficient when it comes to getting ahead and getting to the top. So I find in terms of resilience and tenacity, I
Mhm.
find women have an edge over men when it comes to that. Women are far more resilient than men.
Tenacity is a great word for that. You're right.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
they really are. They have my profound respect and admiration, not because I'm one of them, but just as a whole gender, being exposed to speaking to both sides, I'm profoundly amazed. I'm in amazement every day
Mhm.
when I speak to one of them as to what they had to go through to, reach the levels that they're at. And so if I were to say what's the one big difference, I would say resilience.
Mhm. Well, let me ask you another question, which came up this weekend. Do you think that to be a leader, you pay a price at some level for something?
Yes. And I think it hurts only when it costs you something that's really, really dear to you. That's when you start to question what you're doing. Until that happens, you're willing to pay the price. Leadership isn't for everyone. You can be born with leadership initiative, but that doesn't make you a leader. People seem to forget that. Leadership is something that's honed and acquired through a lifetime of putting it into practice, of testing yourself, of testing, your outer limits, of seeing the impact you have on others, the ability you have to lead others. These are all things that happen over a process of time. And to stay at a certain level, it does end up costing you because you vibrate at a different decibel than the people that are following you. And they expect you to vibrate at a different decibel, or else they wouldn't be following you in the first place. So there is a price to pay. The people that are willing to pay that price have a different mindset about the things that drive them and what they feel their purpose in life is.
Mhm.
And the
But
really great leaders, I'm sorry for interrupting you, the really great leaders inherently believe they are chosen for something greater than themselves.
well, I'm interrupting you. You're the guest. Uh, well, this came up in the context of almost every leader that I've ever interviewed has been divorced, and I think that's to me, they always have a second family, which somehow or other does better than the first family.
True. When you're starting out, you're because being in leadership and ascending to a leadership role changes you in a way that you don't really know what the outcome is in terms of how it's going to change you as a person. So if you marry someone at the beginning of your career, you are of one mindset, right? But throughout the trajectory of your career, as things start to change for you, as this metamorphosis happens to you, whereby there's a calling for leadership upon you, the changes that you're going through to be able to adapt to that may not necessarily uh, transfer themselves well within the marriage that you're in. Then again, it depends what type of partner you have. I was once told by an extremely wise uh, lady who was married to a very, very powerful man, and they successfully had a 50-plus year marriage. I asked her, what's the key? I mean, your husband started, a small business and now has a multinational. Like, what is the key? And she told me, very simply, what's important, what makes a partnership last is to have the same goals. I understood my husband's goals and I mirrored those goals. I wanted the same goals. So I understood my end of the equation, what it is that I needed to do to make sure that those goals were met. A lot of partnerships, you find that often that one person changes and the other one is the same. That There's an inequity that happens there at some point. And that's why, if there's a second marriage that takes place, well, this person who's now morphed into this incredible leader, their transition is done. So this new person entering into their life gets them at their highest best. So the changes that may occur going forward are always exponentially smaller because the biggest growth spurt has already been done. So there is sometimes a very painful cost to leadership. Yes.
Well, we have just a few minutes left. First, tell us your website again. Then, what would you like to leave our audience with?
So my website again is www.intinde.com. That's INTINDE.com. I think what I'd like to leave everyone with is be empathetic, be open, be transparent, communicate, groom your team to be part of your vision, not a part of your vision, but in your vision. Be a communicator, be a delegator, empower your team. Empower your team, trust that you've hired leaders, and let them perform as leaders for you. That's the goal.
All right. Angela, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really interesting time together. I hope you've liked it as much as I liked it, and I hope our audience will as well.
You'll let me know. I had a great time. Thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.